This is a padded detached buttonhole. That sounds really complex. The stitch itself is not that difficult, but you do have to have a foundation, and I have begun the foundation by stitching over 2 canvas threads all the way around, and now I'm going to come back and fill in these gaps, covering 2 canvas threads, but now I'm going in the reverse direction. Don't worry if you split the threads going through. It's not that big a deal. You want to have a tension that's tight enough that it's going to hold the stitches that come later nicely, but loose enough to work your needle under, because you're going to need to be able to get your needle under these stitches. Okay, now I've got my circle is all filled in. So now I'm going to bring the needle out close to where I began. This is the last time it's going into the canvas until I'm finished. And I'm holding the thread over this way, and I'm going to slide the needle under the next stitch like this, and I'm going to bring the thread over, and I'm making a loop. So now I'm going to do that all the way around. You can make your loops as tight or as loose as you want. It doesn't matter that much, and you are using a nice thick thread for this. For those of you who don't like random and want everything to be very precise, this may make you a little crazy, because sometimes it can be a little difficult to get the precision that you think you want. But I can assure you that this is a very forgiving stitch, and I'm going to keep my stitches a little bit loose just so you can see them better. But you're just sliding under your foundation stitches and bringing your thread over, and you're making all these little loops. I usually work with my canvas very tight, and if you do and you find it difficult to slide your needle under these stitches, you could loosen your canvas a little bit, or just deal with it. This is the only time. Make sure you keep your needle over your thread so that you can form the loops. I do better in some directions than other directions, and you may find the same. And you can also turn your canvas if you need to. But just keep forming your loops. Okay, I'm just about back to where I began. So I'm going to come into this first stitch one more time and make a loop. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to be working in the loops that I've made. I'm still doing exactly the same thing that I've been doing. Bring your needle under, come over and make a loop. Like I said, you can make these as tight or as loose as you want. The thread the pearl cotton that I'm using for the demonstration is not as thick a thread as the thread that you'll be using for the actual stitch. Oop, don't want to have a knot there. But you can see all my little loops that I'm making. The second round is much easier than the first round because the stitches are a little bit looser and easier to work into. Just keep bringing your needle out over this loop that you're forming. Don't catch the threads on the other side. And you can see that this is really a pretty stretchy stitch. I think of it like crochet. I don't know if you crochet or not. I do, or I have done. I haven't had time to crochet for a long time, but this reminds me of single crochet. Okay, I'm going to do one more round like this, working into my loops. And then we'll start the stuffing. You can see that once you develop the rhythm of it, it goes really pretty quickly. And you may, this is putting some twist in the thread, so you may want to untwist it as you stitch, just to make sure that you're in control of the thread and that the thread's not in control of you. Okay, after I have about 3 rounds in, which is about what I've got here, I've got 3 rounds. I'm going to start the stuffing because I want to make sure that I stuff. Oh, now I did not come over my loop there, so I'm just going to bring the needle take that out and make sure I've done it correctly. There we go. This thread is the thread is usually thick enough that you can't tell if there's any little mistakes, but you want to make sure that you have the stretch that you need, and so I always try to really focus. Okay, so now I'm just going to leave my needle for just a minute, and I'm going to take my fiberfill. And I'm going to take just a few little wisps of fiberfill. See, not very many at all. And I'm going to kind of compress it a little bit. And I'm going to poke it down into under the stitches that I've been forming. Be patient. You may find that your laying tool is a better option. I think my tweezers are a little bit big for that. I think this piece is a little bit big, so I'm going to take some of it out. You're going to be just working with wisps of fiberfill at a time. Compress that a little bit. Okay, there, that might be a little bit more manageable. And I'm going to just kind of work it into the edges. Bringing my, there we go, there we go. Got another little wisp here. I'm going to work that in. This is going to be really fiddly, but just be patient and find the implement that you think is going to work the best for you for getting all of the fiberfill in. And just work with little bitty bits at a time. You can see that it's why it's an advantage to have this nice stretchy stitch. You want it to be even all the way around. Sometimes I feel like I need 3 or 4 hands in order to do this. Here's my other needle that I was using. I want to make sure that I get it even all the way around. There we go. Another little piece here at the bottom. If your stitches are really loose, you may be concerned that the fiberfill is going to show through, and so you may want, and because it's kind of showing through here, partly because of the contrasting color and partly because I'm not using a very thick thread. Okay, so now I've got the first little bit of my stuffing done, and so now I'm going to continue making loops, and I'm going to close over, taking care not to catch the fiberfill because I don't want to have any little wisps sticking out. And I deliberately made my stitches really quite loose so that you could see the structure of the stitch. But you may want to focus on making your stitches tighter and closer together to make sure that your fiberfill doesn't show through. The actual thread that you're using in the project also has the advantage of being a very shiny thread that reflects the light and helps to fool the eye. But you're just going to continue making your stitches, working into the loops, not catching the fiberfill. I don't think I'm going to need to stuff any more into this. I think that I got a little bit aggressive on the stuffing. You may want to work with much fewer, just little wisps instead of bigger clumps. Now, just like in crochet, when you need to decrease, what you do is you just skip one of your previous loops and work into the next one, and that will provide the decrease. You do the same when you want to increase, you work 2 into the same loop. But you're still working in the same manner that you've been working. Whoop, make sure I go. Nope. For some reason, when I come to this side, I get confused and don't bring my thread out over the loop that I'm forming. But it's easy to correct. I'll just take the thread and try it again. Okay, I've just about closed everything up over my fiberfill. I think I'm going to do one more little stitch and make sure that I'm going to take this last stitch again on this side that I have trouble with and make sure that I have worked into the loop on the other side. Okay, so now if I were to take the needle down straight through, I would make a dimple in my little cabochon, and I don't want that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide my needle into the work, and I'm going to not pull it tight, but I've brought it out to the edge under the fiberfill, and now I can insert the needle and end off the stitch.